Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. We will get started in just a minute or two. We're right at the top of the our time slot, so I'll just give everyone a minute to join on and get ready to go. Hi again, for those of you who just joined us. We will start the session in just 1 minute. Just want to give some more people some time to join before we jump into the content. Thanks. All right, I think we'll get started. Just so everyone is aware, we are recording today's session. So we'll send that recording out afterwards. So thank you for joining us today. My name is Stephanie, and I will be taking you through the majority of today's content related to TrueSky, our advanced budgeting, planning, and forecasting solution for Sage 300. I also have my colleague Alan Whitehouse on the line, and he will be giving you guys a demo very shortly, and both of us are happy to answer any questions or comments. On that note, everybody is on mute, so if you do have any questions or comments, feel free to use GoToWebinar's either questions or chat box, and Alan and I will do our best to answer them throughout the session, or at the end we'll have some time. So what we will do for the next kind of 45 minutes to an hour is make sure that you can see how TrueSky helps Sage 300 teams budget with more confidence, continue using Excel, getting a trusted Sage integration, and having an ongoing support presence. We'll go through a little bit about what budgeting looks like today, where people are looking or what people are looking for new solutions. And then we'll tell you all about our TrueSky Advantage program and jump into a live demo. Again, we will have time for questions at the end, but you can use the chat or questions box if you have any throughout. Before we jump in, I do want to propose a poll question. So I'll just put that up now. Would just like to get a feeling for how the majority of you on the call today are managing your budgeting, forecasting, and planning process. I'll give us a little bit of time to vote. All right, got a good portion there. So as expected, the huge majority of people on today's call are using Excel to manage the budgeting process. Definitely to be expected. Excel, most teams start with Excel because it's flexible and familiar. But truly, Excel was not designed to support enterprise budgeting at scale. And if you're on the call today, I'm guessing you've realized that. So as soon as you involve more people, more versions, or ultimately more scrutiny, things start to break down. Version control becomes a challenge. Audit trails are, limited, if any, and there's no built-in workflow to manage the process of submissions and approvals and that sort of thing. Ultimately, budget input becomes very siloed and manual. So collaboration is difficult and everything is just slow. On top of that, without a direct integration to the data source for you guys, that would be Sage 300, teams like you are spending a lot of time exporting, copying and pasting, reconciling, and validating numbers. So what we see over and over again is that budgeting and forecasting truly become a periodic pain. Every cycle, teams are forced to relearn, redo the same cleanup work, and lose efficiency instead of gaining it. And that really is the point of budgeting, right? Find ways to make strategic decisions, understand where the business is going, you know, all of the positive stuff around the budgeting process, not just setting it up, learning how to do it, and managing spreadsheets. So I am curious, what do you all find is causing the most frustration in your budgeting process today? You can choose more than one, and if you have anything else, feel free to use our chat box. We'll do our best as we get through the my piece of the content and Alan's demo to kind of show you where TrueSky can address these frustrations. Give us just a little bit of time to respond. I'll just give 5 more seconds. All right. Okay. So, I mean, kind of split across the board. As expected, Excel is a big headache for people and managing multiple versions, integrating to Sage, manual data reconciliation. So, pretty split across the board. So, that's where we're here to help. And when finance teams like you start looking for a better solution, usually the goal isn't to replace everything. It's just to fix what's broken. You don't want to create new problems with the implementation of a new tool. So what are finance teams looking for in a budgeting solution? Well, ease of use is critical. Obviously, if a solution is hard to learn or disrupts how people are already working, adoption becomes a really huge risk. We also hear that people like Excel and they want to continue leverage what already works, but they need better control, accuracy, and more confidence in the numbers. And just as importantly, the solution has to be built not only for Sage 300, but to support your organization over time as you make changes to Sage, as you make changes to your business, and each and every cycle. So budgeting doesn't become something that you have to relearn every year. On that note, would like to know what's important to you. So when you are looking for a budgeting solution to replace what most of you said is an Excel-based process, what are you looking for? Again, we'll use this information to shape what we talk about over the next 40-ish minutes. So there's a poll question up on screen. If you wouldn't mind, I'll give us a little bit of time. Just give us 5 more seconds. Okay. So the big one was controls, workflow, and auditability with a typo. Sorry about that. So we will definitely show you guys that in the demo. But as we expected, a lot of you guys care about ease of use, fast adoption, and making sure that you have kind of all the control around the process. So these are exactly the things that we have understood, and I'll show you those as we talk about and show you the TrueSky advantage. Now, what we propose or call our solution is the TrueSky Advantage. We believe that to truly improve your budgeting and planning process, you need more than just software. So we have a complete solution with these 4 different parts to really help you with the whole process from start to finish. The first piece, we leverage Excel. You'll see in the demo, you can continue with that interface that you and your team know and trust. But we add enterprise level controls that you need to budget and forecast at scale. That really gives you the best of both worlds, the comfort for users, that ease of use, and governance for leadership. So everyone gets accuracy, accountability, and efficiency without leaving Excel behind. Now, I want to be really clear, we are so much more than just Excel. With Excel alone, we've talked about this a couple times and your poll answers have solidified that. You don't have a lot of these kind of enterprise capabilities. You don't have centralized database. You don't have proper workflows or audit trails. Merging data is super manual and prone to errors. And getting that data from Sage or other data source takes manual exports and reconciliation. So TrueSky gives you all of these capabilities while keeping the Excel interface that you already know and love. So you get control and governance without sacrificing familiarity. Continuing on through our solution, TrueSky integrates directly with your electronic data source. So in your case, one of those data sources could be Sage 300, but it could be a payroll system, an HR system, a CRM, anything like that. We make sure that you have accurate data, that you're not doing, manual imports and exports for, so your team has access to the information that you need. Now, TrueSky is the only certified solution to integrate to Sage 300. Any change you make in Sage, so a new transaction, new account, new department, will automatically be reflected in TrueSky. So no more exporting, reconciling, or copying files. The next piece is SQL. So nothing is saved in spreadsheets. Everything lives in a SQL database, giving you full control and trust in the numbers. So no more emailing files, checking in or checking out, none of that kind of version chaos that you'll have in Excel. All of it is done through a controlled database. And finally, the TrueSky Advantage program ensures that you're not just buying software. What you're getting is ongoing support, guidance, and a proven implementation. This is, something that really is important to us and really sets us apart. We don't just provide support or services during the initial go live phase. What we are proposing is becoming a partner for your entire budgeting and reporting process. So our consultants help with or do all of the setup, integration, templates, and workflow design based on your requirements. So we deliver everything to specifically what you need. Foreshadowing a little bit, what you'll see in the demo is just a demo. Ultimately, we deliver a solution completely configured for you, combined with our experience across clients, across all industries and sizes. Now, as part of this Advantage program, again, not only is that support during that initial go live or setup, you get unlimited access to support for each and every budget, forecast, and reporting cycle. Now, whether that's adjusting existing templates, building new ones, adding functionality, or training users, we are there to do it all. So not only does this help make things more efficient and save you guys time, it also protects against turnover. So as things change, you have ongoing support from professionals who know your business and your process. Ultimately, what we're trying to do here is help your team focus on what matters, analyzing trends, making informed decisions, and improving financial performance while leaving all the administrative and technical stuff to TrueSky. Now, just one last note before we jump into the demo. On screen here is some examples of what TrueSky can do. We are a complete solution for all of the input or budgeting, whether that's budgeting, planning, and forecasting, as well as reporting and dashboarding. So what you'll see in the demo shortly will just be a sample based on kind of a high-level financial budget and reports. But we do so much more than that. Any other kind of business system we can support, business process, sorry, we can support you with, and report not just on TrueSky data, but also on your actual data in other systems as well. So that being said, I will pass it over to my colleague, Alan, who can show you the tool in action, and then we'll come back on for final notes and next steps. Alan?
Yep, just switching over here. All right, so on your screens now, you should be seeing Excel. And as Stephanie mentioned, Excel is our end user interface. And again, by doing that, we allow you to leverage not only the features and functions of Excel that are very numerous and really unparalleled, but also you get to leverage your existing investment in knowledge and familiarity with Excel, as well as the fact that there are literally tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of blog posts out there on how to do certain things in Excel. So again, it helps, eliminate or reduce the amount of learning that you have to do to work with a new application. You get to leverage all of that, right? And it's also why users are going to pick things up so easily. So home, insert, view, help. These are all the tabs that you see, the menu bar items in Excel today. Where we come in here is in TrueSky. Now, I know we've got clients on this call from multiple different countries. We do support multiple different languages. So I'm not going to go heavy into that, but do know that we do support different languages for the UI. If you've got, doesn't have to just be English. If you have operations in multiple countries, somebody can be working in one language, somebody else can be working in another. But where I'm going to start is this section called the Hub. The Hub is the central area that an end user goes to access the reports and assignments that they've been granted rights to see and to work with by an administrator. Assignments are input tasks. That's how we get data into the system manually. So as an example, I have a task to work on that's called office expense, and I have a task to work on that's travel expense. Under reports in my financial statement folder, I have access to 4 different financial statements. Now these 4 financial statements and these 2 assignments are what I see when I log into TrueSky. When another user logs into TrueSky, they might see something completely different. They might see 1 report and 1 input task. And a theme that you will see that we carry throughout the whole solution is that everything dynamically renders itself to the individual user based on their security settings. This is what's going to also reduce a lot of the confusion that you get, a lot of the questions that you get. It allows your people to stay more focused because they only have to worry about what they see on screen. Now, for this presentation, I'm going to focus on office expenses. I'm doing expense capture, SG&A type stuff at a GL level. Keep in mind that with TrueSky, you can do budgeting and forecasting and planning of pretty much any business process that you can think about. So it could be expenses, it could be revenue, whether that be at the dollar basis or things like, putting in, by customer, by product, quantities and rates and driving to a total there. So by customer, by product, by customer, by product, by product line, sales territory, whatever. Could be capital expenditure forecasting. It could be compensation planning. Could be things to do with, as an example, project costing or project revenue. So what you're going to see here is not just all that we do. We do a lot, but again, we're not going to do a, you guys don't want to be sitting on this call for, like 8 hours as we go through everything that we can do. So starting with office expenses, we're going to give you the command and control that you don't necessarily have today with Excel. So things like start and end dates. People can't start working on the budget until you allow them to. And that's really the problem because people tend to procrastinate and put off working on the budget or the forecast for as long as possible. But more importantly, you can lock them out from making changes once a budget cycle is done. So if you've had a situation where you looked at your budget numbers one day and then went back in a week later to check something on the budget and those numbers have changed, you don't have to worry about that anymore. You've got complete control. And within TrueSky, we have a complete workflow approval engine built in. I'm not going to go into it a lot today, but it does allow you to route your numbers through various different levels of approval. So what I did was I went ahead and retrieved my assignment for office expenses, and it began the process of rendering that template specifically for what I am allowed to see and to work with. First page is instructions, just because people aren't, in the application every day, and because we all get, 100 emails a day, right? So we're trying to get stuff out of emails, and this way it's kind of more upfront. They see it, they can't ignore it, and so forth. But where I'm going to focus is on this tab over here called Office Expenses. Now, I want you to focus on what's going down here on the left in this bar where it says Filters for Office Expense. These are my filters, my slicers, my dimensions. Right now, these are for my presentation for the business process that I am demonstrating here. I have a slicer for location. I have a slicer for department. I have a slicer for currency because we support doing budgeting and forecasting and reporting in multiple different currencies. And I have a slicer for version. So you can start with version 1 of your budget, copy it to version 2, edit version 2, compare version 1 to version 2, and so forth, right? These are my slicers. Your slicers are going to be completely up to you and the business process that you are budgeting for. So if you're doing something like expenses at a GL level, these slicers might equate to these segments that you have in your chart of accounts. So if you don't have different locations, you don't have a slicer for location. If you're only working in one currency, you won't have a slicer for currency. If you were doing something like revenue, it might be a slicer for customer or product line. If you're doing compensation, it might be slicers for like employee or division, right? So again, that all gets tailored to your deployment. Again, the whole goal of True Sky is to tailor the application, and we're not writing code. These are just switches that you turn on and off to meet the way you want to do budgeting and forecasting. Now, if I wanted to work with a different location, I could select my edit button and up would pop a list of locations that I have access to. So the first thing, if in this list, I didn't get access to, say, the Dallas office, I wouldn't see it on this list, and the person sitting next to me might. So we've created one document to roll out to everybody. And again, security is going to kick in with each individual user and to control what they can see and to work with. These views are also great for doing reporting. So as an example, I could pull back data from my Seattle office, combine it with my California operations and my Alberta operations, okay? Now what it would do would either roll up all of those numbers in real time for me when I bring it back, or maybe lay out those those locations side by side for comparison. So with one document, you get a lot of interactivity without having to do dozens of different reports. Finally on this, and most importantly, when we tie into a back-end data source like Sage 300 or any other electronic data source that we're using from your organization, if you add a new department, a new location, a new account, a new customer, a new department, a new product, whatever, we will pick it up automatically. So you don't have to manually maintain two different systems. Now, this is a big differentiator between us and a lot of the other solutions that claim to have integration to, say, Sage 300. What they really mean is they will do an initial upload of all of those items into their application, but then on an ongoing basis, you've got to manually maintain two different systems. Not true with True Sky. We handle all of that automatically for you, again, trying to take down your workload and the effort that it takes to do a budget cycle. All right. And again, this is all going to be configurable based on how you want things to work. So I'm going to go ahead and retrieve data for my Seattle office for the corporate department. And now it's going out and making a call and bringing me back the data that I have access to do, that we have as the most up-to-date data in the database. I'm going to close my filter pane here and zoom in a little bit for you just to see a little bit better on these web meetings. Now, first of all, even in the body of these documents, we support security. So if I don't get access to certain accounts, I won't see it on this list. The person sitting next to me might. After that, what you see on rows, what you see on columns, the color, the shading, the font control, is going to be completely up to you and how you want things to look and to feel. I am working with 12 months of budget and 12 months of actual and 12 months of variance. But you could be doing 60 months of budget, 120 months of budget, right? Whatever you want to do from that. You could have multiple prior years of budget showing up on screen, multiple prior years of actuals showing up on screen. I am budgeting on a monthly granularity, but we support granularities of daily, weekly, quarterly, and yearly. So if you have different kinds of processes where you want to forecast it on a weekly basis, we can support that as well. I am budgeting on a calendar year, but we also support things like fiscal years. Enter on a fiscal report on a calendar, enter on a calendar report on a fiscal. If you're also, say, retail, we can support things like 445. So if you're using the retail calendar, we can do that as well. Now, as an end user, when it comes to working with the application, I can just start typing in the numbers like I can today. I can do copy paste. I can do the autofill that comes in here. And if you look at the formula I'm typing, this is a true Excel formula, not Excel-like where the syntax is slightly different, true Excel. So your people don't have to learn anything new when they're working with TrueSky. They pick it up really rapidly. And the moment I hit save, my numbers are saved to the back-end database. I get a little notification that they have, and they're instantly available to any other user to access in real time. You don't have to worry about document check-in, check-out, no emailing of Excel workbooks, no linking and formulas and all that other kind of pain. We handle all of that for you automatically. However, we're not just the wild, wild west of Excel. So if I try to come in here and delete all my actuals, I can't do that. You know, I can't decide not to budget, delete the column and not to budget for January. But if I am a user who likes to use their color scales, I have all of that functionality available to me. So again, we've kept alive all of that, and we put in the controls that you need when doing things in Excel. After that, we've also added a lot of additional stuff that takes it to the next level. First one of those, audit trails. Anytime a user makes a change to a number in TrueSky, we track what was the change, the date and time, and who was the user that made that change. So if you've ever had a situation where you're doing like analysis on your numbers, you know, after the budget cycle is done, and you're going, okay, where did this number come from? Who put that in? And everyone's saying, I didn't, I have no idea, right? You'll know exactly where those numbers came from. Again, helps drive accountability, gives you clarity into where your numbers came from, right? There's no more finger pointing and everything else. You know exactly how your numbers built up over the course of time. We give you the ability to add commentary to your notes. Now, a lot of you might be using the right mouse click add note functionality in Excel. And that's kind of great. It's a good way to start. And again, the importance of getting commentary on your numbers is, you know, the quantitative numbers, just the numbers that only give you part of the picture, right? What people are thinking helps give you an idea to whether or not these numbers are realistic or not, or how important are these numbers, right? Well, using that note in Excel is great, but the problem is, as you roll up all of that stuff into one master budget, those notes don't follow. And if you've got a different report that uses those numbers in a different layout, those notes don't follow around. Well, we allow you to add notes, but our notes are stored at the database level. I can add as many notes as I want, including electronic attachments. So if I've got a copy of a business case in Word, I can attach it here. If I've got a vendor quote in PDF, I can attach it here, right? And we tag it with who was the date and time and what was the note all about, right? So again, by putting all these notes along with the attachments, we're storing all of this centrally. So if I go to submit for approval and my boss wants to know why this is important, he doesn't have or she doesn't have to track me down, try to find out, okay, what is this number all about? Why are you budgeting so high or so low here? They've got all of it in one place. More importantly, because we're consolidating all that information in one place, 6 months from now, you're doing some kind of budget to actual analysis. You're going to be able to, you know, have all of that backup information in one place, because the way it is today, right, all that stuff tends to stay in people's desktops. It gets deleted. It goes into server shares where you can't find it anymore, right? So again, we're trying to make you more collaborative and make you more efficient in doing everything with your budget. When it comes to efficiency, we also give you a series of data tools. And these data tools fulfill two purposes. One, get your people in and out quicker. Two, improve the quality of the numbers that you're putting into the system. So let's talk a little bit about putting numbers in first. So let's say I'm the kind of person that likes to do a divide by 12 method of budgeting. And what I mean by divide by 12 is you know what you're going to spend for the year and you just want to equally apportion over 12 months. Well, instead of going cell by cell by cell, I can come up here and do 100,000 equally. Now when I hit replace, it knew what the math was for me and apportioned that 100,000 equally. And I could highlight whatever other cells I wanted to include in this concept. And now it would apportion those on that basis for me, okay? Now that's great, but what's wrong with kind of the divide by 12 method of budgeting that I was just showing up here, right? Well, as you probably all understand, you have very few revenues or expenses in your operations that are completely identical from month to month to month, right? And if you're only looking at the budget at the yearly level, doesn't make a difference. But if you're trying to use TrueSky to do cash flow projections, which is what a lot of our customers are doing nowadays, having these accurate numbers is important. So you know if you're going to have inflows or outflows, net positive, net negatives on your cash flow at the end of the year. So what can we do to help that? Well, if you know you have seasonality to your business, I can choose the, say, summer trend here. And these are rules that you can set up yourselves. And now when I hit replace, it's going to apportion more to the summer months and less to the winter months. Or if I choose the opposite, the winter trend, it's going to do just the opposite, apportion more to the winter or less to the summer. Or maybe the best predictor of how you're going to trend this year is how you spent your money last year. So now I'm going to base it on last year's trends, and now I have apportioned that 100,000 based on the same trending as I got last year. So again, giving you better numbers from a reporting point of view later on. Other things that this tool does is going to help you get more numbers into the system quicker. So let's say I put all these numbers in. I just copy and pasted some numbers for the heck of it here. And my boss says you need to decrease your spend by 23.5%. Well, instead of having to go cell by cell, I can go up here and do 23.5%. And now every time I hit decrease, my numbers decrease by 23.5%. Or if I want to go on a spending spree, I'm going to type in 1,000 here and do amount or value. And now every time I hit increase, my numbers increase by 1,000. Or maybe I want to get a start on my budget this year. I'm going to take my last year's numbers. I'm going to copy them in here. And I'm going to do 5% increase and bump up everything by 5%. And then I'm going to change this one to 3,000 because I know it's coming. And now maybe I'm done with my budget. So again, these data tools, get your people in and out quicker, especially important if you're trying to have to move to doing things like quarterly reforecasts. You can't spend 4 weeks of the year, 4 weeks out of the quarter working on the budget, but also improve the quality of your numbers that you're putting into the system. Now, up to this point, I've been doing dollar-based input, but we support driver-based budgeting. Driver-based budgeting is where you're putting rate and quantity or rates and quantities into drive to a dollar amount. So as an example here, you'll see I can't change my kitchen and cleaning supply number. But if I change my head count number, my kitchen and cleaning supply value changes, right? So why is driver-based budgeting important? Well, it helps you get a better idea of other things in your business that you might need to change. So let's say you're doing revenue and you're figuring out number of units you're going to sell. Well, if you only know the dollars, that might not clue you in that you need to do another production run once a month, which is going to take more staff, right? So doing driver-based budgeting gives you ultimately at the end of the day more data to work with to do your analysis and so forth, and we fully support it. Now, anytime you're doing inputting, you can still see data visualization. So if seeing how your numbers are trending in graphs or charts, we've got you covered for that as well. Now, I'm going to zoom in here a little bit more. Talk about doing buildups of your numbers. So here's a perfect example. Employee training. What went into employee training? Well, a lot of other solutions, you're going to have a sub-schedule where you're going to have to close this window down, go to a different screen, put in your employee training, and then total that up and copy it back into the system. Well, we let you do buildups of your numbers in real time. So I'm going to expand right here, and you can see for employee training, I have budgeted for these 2 classes. And on the fly, I can come up here to the ribbon bar and I can say add detail, and I can say new class, give it whatever name I want to call it, right? And I can say what month it's going to be in, and what the dollar amount is. Now when I hit save, it's going to save my top line number, and it's going to save all of my detailed line numbers. So I'm done with my budget. I submit for approval to my boss. My boss, without having to track me down, can say, okay, Alan's going a little heavy on employee training. What is he budgeting for? Well, without having to find me, email, phone, whatever, can open this up and see exactly what I'm doing and do approvals or rejections based on that. But more importantly, 6 months from now, you're doing a budget to actual kind of comparison, or you got an income statement with a budget on it, completely different layout, and you're over or under budget on one of these items. Instead of having to go and find backup documentation or find the person and say, what were you thinking? Right away, you'll be able to open this up and see exactly what you were budgeting for. Oh, well, Mark was scheduled to go in this class. Mark quit. Didn't have to set him on the class, which is why we're under budget. So again, giving you all of that information easily accessible at your fingertips. Now, Why I've been entering, I don't know if you noticed, some of these icons here have gone from green to yellow to red. That's a visual clue that goes along in conjunction with our data validation feature. So usually when you're doing budgeting, you're not letting your people do budget whatever they want. And TrueSky supports the concept of top-down budgeting or bottom-up budgeting. But what most organizations do is upper management sets some goals for the budget cycle. You've got to increase in these areas by this much. You've got to cut by these areas this much. If you increase here, you've also got to increase here, and so forth, right? And usually those notifications or those rules go out in an email, and people tend to forget about it or ignore it. And they submit whatever numbers they want. And this is part of why that budget cycle takes so long, and people are going back and forth, just to get back to those targets. Well, you can build those kind of rules into your process within TrueSky, and they can be used during the budget capture portion, or they can be used on reports to alert you to variances and so forth that are greater than certain thresholds. In my example here, I'm going line by line and comparing what I'm spending this year against last year. If I am increasing by less than 10%, I am getting a green. If I'm increasing between 10 and 20%, I'm getting yellow. If I'm over 20%, I'm getting red. I hit my validate button up there, and I get immediate feedback as to what is wrong with my numbers. This can also be tied in with the workflow approval process, such that if I'm green down the board, great, I can submit for approval, no problem. I got yellows, the system might say, hey, you're close, we're gonna let you submit, but you better be prepared to defend it and justify why you need it. And you can say something like, you know what, if you've got reds on the board, we're not gonna even let you submit for approval because your numbers are so far out of whack, they're just gonna get rejected anyhow and you're wasting everybody's time. So again, carrying that theme through, with TrueSky, we give you that command and control. We're going to give you higher quality numbers. We're going to make you more efficient. We're going to improve the process. Okay. So I'm going to switch gears a little bit here. So now you've been doing your data input, and whether you're looking at a report or you're doing your budget, whatever the case may be, common question: how did I spend 1.25 million last year? Right. Well, instead of me having to, what do you do today, right? Department managers don't have access to Sage 300, which is pretty common, right? You don't want non-accountants in your accounting system, right? So what do? They call or email somebody in accounting finance who has to stop what they're doing, go into Sage, run some kind of report out of Sage. Maybe they have to dump that into Excel and they have to do further massaging of the data or what have you. And there's two problems with this. One, it's adding to the workload of accounting and finance. Two, especially when you're doing the budget cycle, you're doing the budget on top of all of the other work you got to get done during the day. And I may only have a window of opportunity to work on this budget, which is like, 3 to 5 p.m. on Thursday, right? Well, if that's my window and I need this information, but I got to wait for a day for accounting and finance to get back to me, I've lost that opportunity. Well, we let your people do their own self-service drill downs back to source data. Now, this source data could be Sage. It could be any other electronic data system that you want to, as I say, let us get our grubby little fingers into. But now I'm going to click this here, and what it's doing is bringing you back the AP and purchase order transactions that were related to, say, my department. Now, a couple things I like to point out. One, we got security, so people are not getting into areas of, and they're not seeing data that they shouldn't be able to see, like payroll or salaries or something like that. Okay, we've got logic. I'm not bringing back every expense account, only the ones that are up on screen. I'm not bringing back 10 years of data. In my example, I'm bringing back 1 year of data so they can do some greater analysis. But now that I've got this up on screen, what can I do with it as a user? Well, maybe I want to start by sorting my purchases. I can move these columns around. And the columns that you see are up to you and what you want to display and the user group, right? But maybe I want to sort it from lowest to highest or highest to lowest, just like this, right? But maybe that's too much to get my head around. So I'm going to say, show me what my top 10 purchases were. And I want to see what that total was. Well, my top 10 purchases came to almost 25 grand. Great. Well, that's one view for me. I'm going to clear that out. And maybe I'm budgeting right now and I want to see, okay, what are the kind of things I buy by month, right? So right here, I'm going to say, what do I get in January? And that's going to limit to what I buy in January. Okay, what do I buy in April? Well, I don't spend a lot in April, so maybe I shouldn't budget a lot in April. Okay, so that gives me another view, right? Or too much to get my head around. So now I'm going to group it by account name, and I can see I'm spending money on company cars, company meetings. I'm going to throw in, oh, let's do the vendor name here, right? And I'll go to my supplies software account. Well, I spent money with Adobe, CamSoft. Well, there's mobile warehouse. What did I do with that? Well, there's a tablet purchase that got bought, a hardware purchase that got booked to my software account. Or you know what? My department didn't get any new hardware this year. That shouldn't have gone to my budget, right? So what does this tool do? One, it offloads all of that work that falls onto the shoulders of accounting and finance. And two, it gives your people information at their fingertips. So if they want to do their analysis, their budgeting, their report review at 3 a.m. on a Sunday, they've got everything they need to do it right away. Okay, so again, making you more efficient, getting you in and out quicker. Okay, so I've shown you budget capture, and I've shown you the analysis. TrueSky is also a reporting tool. So any tool, data that we have data on, we can report upon it. Now, one of the things, and I don't know of those of you that are running Sage, any of you are using PJC, the project job cost module. A common lament we hear is that the reporting is really weak or non-existent. We can report out of PJC data as well if you're using it. But aside from that, we do everything that you need from reporting if we've got the data, including presentation quality financials. So this is an example of an income statement. It's fairly simple. Usually in real life, they're a little bit more complex, but you can see a couple of things. One, I can do any kind of calculations that I want on them. I can do it coming down the columns for each group and everything else. But I'm going to expand it here, and you can see in this report, I'm combining my actual along with my budget. So today I run this report. I'm going to see 4 months of actual and 8 months of budget, okay? But I run this next month. Maybe I'm going to see 5 months of actual and 7 months of budget, right? So we have the ability to have these reports use what we call time intelligence to give you logical date ranges. It gives you the ability to do things like build trailing 12 months that automatically cycle forward. I want to see a prior 6 and a future 6 forecast. And again, on any of these other ones, you can do expansion and see drill downs. You can access the notes that I was showing you before, audit trails, and you can, from a report, do those same kind of drill downs that I just showed you a little bit earlier. So again, TrueSky, you get budgeting and forecasting of any business process you think of. You get that analytical component, you get reporting. Finally, we can be a dashboarding tool. Now, if you've already invested in a dashboarding tool, a Tableau, a Click, Power BI, whatever the case may be, we can be a data source for that tool. But if you haven't done it, you just want to start doing dashboarding, TrueSky can be your dashboarding tool. Now, one of the things we can also do is not just that dashboarding tool that is showing you a pretty picture of what's gone on in the past. We can let you create ones that give you what if kind of capabilities, so you can kind of see what's going to happen and model what's going in the future. So combining the past data with the future. So here an example is, and we made it simple, different visualizations, everything else. But let's say I can increase revenue by 500%, but I can't do it until November. What is the effect on our net income? You can see the numbers change here pretty quickly. And we need to increase compensation. Everyone's getting a 20% raise, so that everyone's going to be really happy in May, and we can decrease our expenditures by 50% starting in March. Now, obviously, these are exaggerated numbers, but it gives you that capability so you can see how you can compare different things. I can throw in different forecasts for comparison and so forth and see how things are trending and everything else. So to recap, with TrueSky, you get the ability to do budgeting, planning, and forecasting for any business process you can think of. The most common ones are expenses, revenue, capital expenditures, compensation, and project, but it doesn't have to be limited to any of those kind of things. You get deep dive analytics back to source data to make your people more efficient. You get reporting, including presentation quality financials, and you can, by the way, do file save as Excel, save as PDF to be able to email these out and so forth. So that presentation quality reporting, and you get dashboarding, all with one tool. You can pick and choose which of these components you want to deploy and when. You can do it in phases and so forth, depending on what makes sense. All with direct integration to your backend data systems like Sage 300 or any other data source that you might want to let us access that would help you bring data in for doing the reporting or the budgeting and planning process. So I'm going to stay on the call, and at the end, we will open up to any questions that you have, but I'm going to bring Stephanie back on right now to just do a little bit of a wrap up.
Thanks, Ellen. Just switch over. All right, so thank you all. I hope that the demo was valuable. And like we said at the beginning, and Alan said throughout, it's just a sampling of what we can do, and obviously demo data. So everything that we end up doing for you is totally configured for your needs. Now, what we are or want to make sure that we get across today is that what we do with TrueSky is transform your budgeting and forecasting process into something that's accurate, controlled, and collaborative. Our goal is to ensure that your team can focus on analysis and making strategic decisions instead of reconciling spreadsheets. We allow you to keep the Excel interface you already know, connect directly to Sage 300, and store everything in a SQL database so you have control, confidence, and trusted data. Ultimately, working with TrueSky helps you speed up your cycles, reduce errors, and eliminate manual effort. With our Advantage program, you're not just buying software, you're getting expert guidance, proven implementation, and ongoing support to make sure the process stays smooth every cycle, not just at implementation. And that's all we have for today. I sincerely appreciate you joining on to our session, and I really hope we gave you a clear understanding of how we can help your teams using Sage 300 improve the budgeting process. Again, we will be sending out this recording after, so feel free, to look out for that. We are open for questions. I'll take a look if there's any in the question box yet, but don't hesitate to reach out if you need anything specific. So thank you again for your time, and we are open to any questions. Let me just see what we have. All right, just give it a second. All right, I do have a question. Can you integrate with the on-premise version of Sage? Alan, do you want to talk a little bit about probably on-premise and even our deployment options, maybe?
Yes. So yes, we can. Talk about two things. First of all, we can integrate to the online version of Sage or the an on-premises deployment of Sage. Probably most of our clients are still using the on-premises version, so we can integrate with that for sure. When you deploy TrueSky, you have the choice of doing an on-site deployment of TrueSky or using what we call TrueSky Online, which is our cloud deployment, which can still integrate with the back-end on-premises deployment of Sage. So we've got you covered on both of those situations.
And one more question that came through: can multiple people work on the budgets at the same time?
Absolutely. We were designed from the ground up to be multi-user. So, we've got clients that have 10 people, 10 users, and they're in and out, maybe a little overlap. We've got clients that have 60, 70 users where, you've got 50 people in at a time, certainly during budget cycle, working on the budget. So yes, certainly support the whole multi-user concept.
Great. Next question, how does licensing work? I can answer this one. So we have 3 license types. Anybody that needs to input budget data is what we call a full use user. If they do not need to input data, but they need to view the data and participate in the approval workflow, that's another license, so what we call approval and reports. And our last license is reports only, so only the ability to view the reports. Now, all our licenses are named users, and they're all in a subscription term. I hope that answers the question, but I can give more detail if needed. Okay. All right, well, it doesn't look like there's any more questions. We will stick around for a few minutes in case anything comes up. But we, again, really appreciate you joining us this afternoon. We will follow up with the recording and some next steps. But if you need anything urgent, feel free to reach out. Thank you guys so much. I'll end the session now. Thanks, everyone.